Hey guys, so just want to quickly mention we are going to be on break next week, mostly because we're going to be having some internal changes and we're also going to be pursuing more partnerships now. So just want to really quickly mention that our next episode, which was episode 9, is scheduled to be released on October 1st instead. Same day, Thursday. So, and also same time. You should be able to see it by 12 p.m. on Thursday. But other than that, thank you so much for enjoying the season so far, and on to episode 8. Hello to everyone and to all. Welcome back to another episode of Capital Interns. Our podcast essentially helps high school students and freshmen and sophomore post-secondary students to help discover the career that's right for them.
Today's guest is a super smart lady. She's in computer science at Carleton University, holds an NSERC USRA award, and is doing a research position with Carleton's Computational Geometry Lab. She is also a member of Technolgap, a community for women in post-secondary programs in tech.
She has done internships at Versaterm as a software developer and was consulting intern for Deloitte's Omnia Ai team, which is really prestigious. She was also on cuHacking's committee with me as the marketing lead, and I was the logistics lead during our 2019 run. Let's welcome Joyce Basic.
Hi, Joyce.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thanks for being on the podcast with us. It's good to have you with us. On today's episode, we will be discussing Joyce's journey at Carleton University, her first year experience, her degree program, her past internships, and her passions.
So, Joyce, starting off, just wanted to know a little bit about how you went about choosing computer science as the program you want to major in, especially at Carleton University as well.
So initially I chose computer science because I thought it would get me a job, which it does. There are lots of jobs in computer science, but I think that at the time I didn't really consider the other aspects of my life or if I would really be interested in a career in computer science. I was from a fairly small town, so I knew that if I went into something like computer science, there would be a job for me on the other side. Being in computer science, I've learned so much more about it, and now I have more genuine interest in it than I did before. But that was my initial reason for going into computer science.
So that's really interesting to know about that, and I was wondering if you can talk about the stream that you've chosen to go into and what were some of the courses like in first year, because I know for engineering we have a broad general understanding of courses, and I really want to talk about more in depth in the podcast about the differences between software engineering and computer science on this podcast.
So in computer science, there are a lot of streams that you can choose from, but I've decided not to go into a stream, but I have a math minor instead. I am really interested in math, but I actually in first year had a lot of freedom. I know that engineering students don't. There was 5 courses that we had to take.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we only had 5 mandatory classes that you had to take first year, and the other 5 were elective. So first year we had linear algebra, calculus, 2 introduction to computer science classes, and discrete math. And then I got to explore a few different electives first year too.
What were some of your electives that you took?
Initially I was thinking there was a business stream, so initially I was considering going into the business stream, and for that I took economics. There was full semester class, which I believe now is in 2 parts for micro and macro. I took accounting, and then just for fun I took Roman civilization because I love history, and sociology.
Oh man, that's a good course.
Yeah, I would really recommend it to anybody that likes history. It's really well delivered.
Yeah, in the midst between choosing Roman civilization and also classical mythology, but I ended up choosing classical mythology because everyone's like, oh yeah, if you read Percy Jackson, you'll be fine for the exam.
Did they really say that?
It's true though. Yeah, but it's true. It's honestly true. If you read Percy Jackson, you're completely fine for the exam. You don't need any other studying.
Yeah, you were mentioning about your electives, one of the biggest differences I found, comp sci versus software, is that you guys have a lot more electives to take, so a lot more options in terms of where you want to specialize if you want to do, especially if you're interested in business and finance or literature, you can still take some courses in those as well.
And it's interesting that for me, even after third year, I feel there are people in my program that have such diverse knowledge in different areas that I don't necessarily have because they have an interest in something and have been taking courses in something. that like I haven't even learned about.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, especially because like in Carleton computer science in general, there's like 4 or 5 streams, right? I think there's like, is there 6? I can't remember the number.
What do you know what the different streams are?
Oh, I would not be able to list them off. There's algorithms, business. I think there's maybe like a neuroscience one. There's a game development one. I think there's a software engineering one. But there's also like people, like one of my friends has a minor in geomatics. There's a lot of people that are like, you do have more electives with computer science, so you can, if you're interested in other fields, you can explore those too. So you don't need to like stick to just the streams. You can take minors in other classes. You can take courses in other classes. Like I know quite a few people that are taking a number of like music classes that are in computer science. So there's a lot you can still explore by taking computer science that I don't know if you'd be able to if you're in a program like engineering where there's more courses that are laid out for you.
Yeah, I think that's the case, to be honest. But like, I think the only difference is between computer science and the engineering disciplines is that with engineering, like a lot of the SIS courses, for example, I think this is only available for the software engineering computer science stream to take like SIS 4106, which is product management, which is understanding the product lifecycle for software. I don't think you guys take 3120, which is requirements engineering. So like, there is some significant differences, and I think what it boils down to is that computer science, if you're looking to like be specialized at like basically coding and purely coding, computer science I think is a stream for you. But if you're more into like, you know, like the software development lifecycle or understanding the how to make
software design.
Yeah, software design and like software architecture, I feel like software engineering would be the proper path for you. Because I think a lot of people have the misconception between what's software engineering and what's computer science. But I think the software engineering at Carleton focuses more on quality assurance. So like a lot of testing and validation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Unless you're interested in software engineering and you're in computer science, you don't really learn much of that.
Yeah, with ComSci, it's definitely more diverse. Man, going back, I don't know what I would have chosen if I would have chosen software engineering and or like been like, oh, ComSci, more electives, more knowledge.
I think if you don't know what to do, I would say ComSci.
Yeah.
Because you can still take those like extra software engineering, like you can be in the software engineering stream, and you do have a little bit of freedom to try different things too. But yeah, there are definitely like things in software engineering that we don't learn in ComSci.
Yeah, I was also gonna like talk about in general about a little bit more about computer science as a whole. Is that I feel like a lot of the people who like to, you know, learn about different applications of computer science should definitely be in computer science. So for example, if people want to learn about mobile development or machine learning or stuff like that, I think computer science is the program for you. But if you're like me, where like you like to do like more project management type stuff and how we can make code reusable for like 20 or 30 years down the line, I feel like software engineering would be a better path in that regard. And like that's the subtle difference that I think not many people realize it until like you talk to some people who've actually been in the program or you experience it firsthand yourself, which is what happened to me. Dorina, do you agree with that? Like, what do you think?
For me, I think, like you mentioned, that's a really good point where you said, you know, talk to people in the program before you actually apply to it or you join it. Because for me, when I was looking at ComSci and software engineering and trying to decide between the two, it was really hard to choose one. But I ended up going with software engineering because it was in the engineering department and I knew that I liked to do a lot of physics at the time. That changed when I got to university. So I picked Eng. And then the main differences, again, that I found between, you know, someone who's in computer science and someone who's in software engineering, and both of them will graduate and basically have kind of the same jobs, which is a software developer, was that I had more knowledge in software design and architecture. But, like, for example, my brother who's in ComSci, he's more exposed to different programming languages and projects based around that. I mean, I really enjoy the design part, so I wouldn't say that I picked the wrong program. But yeah, it really depends on if you're already sure of where you want to go or if you want something a little bit more broad so you can explore a little bit more.
The other difference is the ring.
Yeah.
Oh my
Depends
God.
how much you want that ring.
Did you find that first year was hard for you? How was your first year of university?
Actually, my first year was not very hard because I spent like most of my time working. I think that like my high school really put in this idea that, and I think it depends on like the difference between like what your high school is like and how you work in high school and how you work in university. And I kind of already worked well enough in high school that it wasn't like I needed to really up my game in university, but I still did. So because of that, I actually did not find it. There was definitely exams that I wrote and I'm like, wow, this is so much easier than I thought, than what I was expecting from high school. And then it does like pick up the pace. I think that like second year, the pace definitely picks up, and same with third year, for sure, especially if you're taking like a lot of electives in first year. But I definitely think that like if you didn't, for me, I had taken like 2 computer science classes when I was in high school. So the computer science content wasn't totally new to me. And they do, like, it's not required that you have computer science courses. So if you were to start computer science when you start university, that would probably be a little bit more overwhelming, I think, to be trying to learn all that when you're in first year and like absorb all that content for the first time. But yeah, actually I didn't find first year bad at all.
If you could go back to first year, would you do things differently?
Yeah, I definitely would. As I said before, I was so focused on school, and I think it's good to be focused on school because I think that there's also the opposite side where you aren't focused on school at all, but I think there's kind of a balance. And I think that in general, you're never really balanced at any point in your life. Like, you can't really have like there's like no point where you have like the exact like work-life balance. At some point you're like a little bit more focused on your life, at some points you're a little bit more focused on your work. But I think that like for me, there was just like very little life outside of the work. So I think that like spending more time getting more involved in first year, talking with more people first year, just like really exploring Ottawa more, and just like the opportunities that I had, I think that I just felt like I had to focus so much on school and didn't realize like that there's more opportunities that I could have like elsewhere.
Yeah, and you know, I was really shocked about like hearing about all that. Like you weren't involved in first year, because second year you really did like an amazing job for cuHacking as marketing lead. And I was just wondering about like, you know, all the extracurriculars you did, just like cuHacking, a little bit more in depth of, you know, overall like how much you did compared to first year and now in second year. So
second year I was really just like involved in cuHacking, but being involved in cuHacking also meant that like I started pushing, I guess, like my comfort zone and like what I was participating in. So I also started going to like more hackathons in second year, partly because I was just like, well, if I'm going to be the director of marketing for a hackathon, I should probably like really understand what a hackathon is like. And then like through going to more hackathons and meeting more people, I just felt more connected with other computer science students, with other people at Carleton. And I just feel like all around it just made that year and that experience more well-rounded.
So can you talk about like your time actually with cuHacking? Was it challenging at first, or did you find it was like an easy task to like, you know, start to get your hands dirty?
It was definitely outside of my comfort zone. I'm pretty sure that like, not I'm pretty sure, I actually knew I had like so little social media experience. I feel like as like the director of marketing, there was a big portion of my job that was like social media based.
That's very ironic.
Yeah. So it was definitely more than I think I would have been comfortable with. So at first I just felt like it was going really fast and there was so much that I didn't even know like I should be doing or was going on or knew how to do. And it seemed like at first like things that were so simple, like make a post. I didn't even know how to do that because I legitimately did not know how to do it.
A lot of work goes into making a post. It's not that easy. Your feet can tell us.
I remember when I was on the team with Joyce, right? I remember Joyce was telling me that like a lot of this stuff was like really new to her. She didn't know what she was doing, and like I remember Rico was telling me, he was a cuHacking co-lead, and he was telling me like, yeah, Joyce is actually doing a really good job, especially because like she has like very little to no experience with marketing, but like I'm pretty sure you also managed the dev team in a way too, right? I remember that dev was put under marketing, and I remember like you had to manage that team and then your marketing team and then the graphics team all together at the same time, and you also need to do your job as marketing lead, which is a huge commitment. And yeah, I was really amazed that not only did you get outside your comfort zone and did something you had no experience in, you actually excelled in it. And because of like your efforts, we went from 200 attendees the previous year to 383 the following year, like during our year. And that was like huge credits to you. Like I didn't expect that, and a lot of the people did stay overnight, which is really impressive. I think it's honestly like a really good experience that you had.
Thank you. And I do have to say, like, the marketing team was really amazing, and I worked with some incredible people, so I think to say that was because of me is definitely an overstatement, but thank you.
Yeah, no, definitely it's still a team sport, but honestly, without the leader, you don't have a direction, right? So definitely, like, they supported you and you guided them, right? And I think it goes hand in hand. So a little bit about the experience with cuHacking. I have a story to say of what happened at cuHacking. So I was really tired because I was leading the logistics for the day of, and also previously, like all the logistics, and I had, I think, 4 days, like during the day before cuHacking all the way to after cuHacking. I had 3 midterms and 2 assignments or something like that, and it was a huge mess. And I remember that I was so tired and so fatigued on like the first day of cuHacking. Joyce literally had to force me to go home. She literally went up to me and she's like, "Rafid, go home. Like, you need to go home. You're an absolute mess right now."
Straight up, go home.
Yeah, he was kind of a zombie at that point. He definitely needed to go to bed.
Did it help you, Rafid?
Honestly, it did. It did. If Joyce wasn't serious that time, like right now she's like all fun and games and everything, but like when she's serious, she's really serious. Like she's like, "You need to go home now, and I don't care what you say, what you think. I'll handle everything from here." So from your experience with all this, right? What were some of the main takeaways you got from marketing lead?
Well, how to post on an Instagram story. I'm just kidding. But I think that for me, being able to really work as a team and being able to really organize people like that have skills that I don't know the details of. So for example, like the dev team, they knew so much stuff that I knew nothing about. So just being able to like figure out how to communicate with them and like understand what they're doing and understand like what the different people in my team, like what their strengths are, and being able to organize all of that. And I think that usually, I think that's also really difficult for me because like usually I'm like that kid that like, if I'm like in a class project in high school, like I would just do like the whole project by my like self. Like I would know like everything like inside out, or like I would do it all with my friends, but then I would maybe like do all like the extra research behind. So like I knew like every little part of the question. If somebody like, so like I knew all the details, and like that's just not possible with something like cuHacking. So to be able to like take a step back from that sort of like position or that leadership style, or maybe lack of leadership style, I don't know if that's like the best leadership style, I think was probably my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, honestly, knowing how to delegate tasks is so big.
That is a big one. For someone who is just starting first year, and I know they can be a little nervous to join extracurriculars, especially when you see everyone who's already like older than you in upper years. What advice would you have for them in terms of getting into extracurriculars and joining a student club?
I would say that right now it's probably more important than ever, because having a community when you're at university is such a huge part of it. And I think that at this point, you're not going into class and like sitting beside somebody and being like, hey, how are you? So you don't, it's not as easy to just make those connections and form that community. So I think that extracurriculars are really important in that way. But I would also say that don't choose extracurriculars that you're not interested in. Like, I think that I feel like I hear this all the time, like people that are like, oh, this is going to look really good on my resume. And there's just like no way that you can sustain doing something just to make it look good on your resume. And like, you're not going to get any fulfillment out of that either. And honestly, like a line on your resume, I think that if you're just there to put that on your resume, but you don't have any passion about it, you don't have any like genuine, you haven't really been super involved in it, you haven't been taking any sort of initiative in it, it's not even going to be that great anyway. So just look at the stuff that you're interested in, and maybe it's not like super related to your field, but you can still get great leadership experience and become more well-rounded. Honestly, if it's not related to your field, that's totally fine. You're going to become more well-rounded and more aware of something else. So take a little bit of time and figure out what's out there. And also maybe like you can reach out to a few different groups, and maybe you only really have time to be part of one of them, but see what makes you feel good and what feels good for you.
Yeah, I agree. Like extracurriculars, I find it's like your chance to have fun with what you like to do outside of like studying and work. So obviously pick something that's, you know, you're gonna have fun with, regardless of what it is.
Yeah, it shouldn't be another course. Like sometimes there'll be work, but like it shouldn't feel like you're like, oh, this is just another assignment. Yeah.
Both of you, if you're a first year, you're not from Ottawa, and you're coming to Carleton University, what are some of the food spots you have to check out in Ottawa?
Well, I feel like you have to go, like it's kind of like inevitable that at some point you'll end up at Sax Dinner anyway, but I feel like you have to go there. I don't know if it's necessarily like the most, it's fun to go to, like get a milkshake if you're there, for sure, but like I don't know if I would say it's my favorite place. Honestly, I really love Little Italy. There's a really cute place in Little Italy, but it's also more expensive, so it's not really like, it's like a treat to go there.
There's so many restaurants
but there's
too
so
there.
many cute places.
Oh yeah, so many. What about you, Rafid? What's one food spot students have to check out when they first come to Carleton?
If you've never been in Ottawa before, you have to have a beaver tail, or else you can't say you're from Ottawa. You can't.
I actually agree with that, like, because beaver tails in the GTA is not as frequent. Like, you don't see them as frequently as you see them here. So yeah, I agree with that one. Get yourself a beaver tail.
The other big thing is Kettleman's Bagels, because like that's actually like university student budget.
That one is popular, yeah.
That one's also popular too. So, for my regard, like, I would say that for like a student outside of Ottawa, if you're in Ottawa, if you never ate anything before in Ottawa, I think I only recommend Artisan Bakery if you're into like sandwich type stuff. But if you're into like actual good food, there's this one place on Bank Street. No, not Bank Street, sorry. Dalhousie, yeah. It's called Burgers and Fries Forever. You need to have that. Like the Burgers and Fries Forever at Dalhousie.
I've seen it so many times, but I have never I've never been like, that's gonna be the place.
Too.
Oh no. For me that was a place because whenever I go there with my friends, we always get the family poutine. Like just a medium poutine, and it's like a family sized poutine. And the three of us can't finish it. It's just so much, right? So like I'm saying that I think if there's anywhere that you want to like have like a food challenge with your friends on like eating contest, or like, you know, if you're into like burgers or something like that, definitely I'd recommend Burgers and Fries Forever. If you're into like pastries or like some more sandwich type stuff, Artisan Bakery. Like those are the two places I recommend the most.
Oh, and if you're not into meat, Pure Kitchen is amazing. I love Pure Kitchen.
For me, like, because I'm into Asian food, like a good meal is like, first of all, get some bubble tea from Chat Time, and then have some dumplings on Rideau Street. It's called like Shanghai wonton noodle. It's so good.
Have you guys ever had hockey sushi?
No.
Yes, in Canada.
What?
In Canada. You never had it?
Yeah.
No, I've never heard of it.
Oh man, you need to have it whenever you
Yo,
whenever you go to Canada. Okay, Joyce, next time you come to Canada, I'm taking you to Hockey Sushi. It's so good.
Okay.
It's so
Sounds
good.
good.
It's all you can eat sushi, and it's like they have the best sushi I've ever eaten, like in Ottawa. In my regards, like that's my standard.
Okay, back to like the actual topics.
Back to the actual topics, as Serena mentioned. You've done some really great internships, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about your Deloitte one, especially because it's Omnia Ai. So, how did you get it, and what did you actually do on your internship? And can you describe the Omnia Ai team as well? Because like Omnia Ai was, I think, my second interview, and I've always really wanted to get into Deloitte. So, I really want to hear from your perspective of your takes on it.
Okay, so I have to say, it's not like the most glamorous. I just applied on their website. I did actually have a friend who worked at Deloitte in Toronto. I worked in Ottawa, and he recommended that he thought I'd be good for it. So I just did mention, like, if you do have somebody that has talked to you about Deloitte, who's worked at Deloitte before, and you talk with them and you get your permission, I think that it probably doesn't hurt to just like mention on your cover letter that this person thought that you'd be a good fit. And then after that, it was because it was an internship, there was like one interview. I know that their full-time positions, the interview process is a little bit more intense. And then I think you also asked what Omnia Ai is like, the environment's like. So that also depends a lot on your location. And I think that it doesn't, when you work for a company like Deloitte, that will depend a lot, the work that you do, regardless of what you're in, will depend a lot on what your location is like. So if you're in Toronto, you're going to work with a lot more businesses. In Ottawa, it was mostly for like government organizations. There's a bit of range in terms of like Toronto, it might be more like what you would think of as like AI. Whereas in Ottawa, sometimes it's more like data management and like these things that kind of have to be done before you can get to the point of like really using AI. So there are some clients in Ottawa that are doing like there's like chatbots, which is something that I worked on. It's not just solely like AI. There's things that need to be in place before AI can even be used. So part of it is that process too.
Can you tell us a bit about the type of work that you did as part of your internship?
Yeah, so there was, I guess, like two main parts to my job, and it would be like this for anybody that works at Deloitte. Part of it is client work, and the other part is the internal development. And that also includes like writing proposals and doing like internal events and like information and like so for me, I did like a lunch and learn session. But the majority of my time was spent doing client work, which for me, I was building a chatbot for a government organization. It was really cool because I think that like most areas of computer science, computer science that you'd like work in like software development or something like that, there is like a client and you maybe are like reading a few emails from them, but like you don't interact with them as much. But for me, I was able to like sit in on those meetings and be like, what do they want? What are they looking for? What are their goals as an organization? And then to be able to make my work reflect that was really cool. And to be able to see their feedback and like watch their face as you give a little demo was really interesting.
Yeah, I was wondering like how much of your time was talking to people versus programming?
A lot of my time was programming. So in terms of talking with the client, I met with them maybe between like 3 or 4 times throughout the time that I was working there. I wasn't working, not like, I think maybe 2.5 to 3 months was spent working on like that one project because I had done some other stuff too. But I did spend a lot of time talking with people on doing internal work because a lot of that was stuff that I just didn't know. So there was more talking, trying to figure out what you need to know for it, what resources you need. Like a lot of times the resources that you need are like a conversation with somebody who knows more about it. So I think that like out of all the places that I've worked, Deloitte, I was definitely having the most meetings and talking with the most people. And I think that as you go, if you were to continue to like work at Deloitte and you were just starting in a full-time position, it might look a little bit similar, but as you get more experience and you become more senior, you'll get more and more experience like working with other people.
Definitely, that's for sure. And what were some of the challenges you had while working at Deloitte? Because I was wondering how it shaped you as a person in the end. Like, did it make you like a more stronger and well-rounded software engineer?
I mean, I don't really try to think of myself as a software engineer, but I think that like as somebody like working in a business environment, it's like a lot more, I guess, like business oriented. And when you start, you're kind of just thrown in. Like, it's kind of normal that you're just assigned projects and you have no idea what's going on. So you really have to be asking questions, to be putting stuff together and expecting for it to be wrong. Like the first time you're going to put something together, it's going to be wrong.
It's going to be wrong.
It was like when I and like just being okay with that too. I think that like for me being like okay with just I'm going to be wrong. I'm going to get some big criticism about stuff because it's my first time doing something and I have no idea how to do it. For me, like the big thing was like making slide decks or like writing things for proposals and like not knowing about really what was going on in that stuff. So it was like the first time you write it, like every line was red commented. Like I kid you not. There were, I would say like 90 to 80% was just like red.
So I was actually wondering about this, Joyce, about about this one time you were telling me that you were stuck on this one problem and you never was stuck on this for like a whole day or it took you multiple days for a specific problem, right? Like, did you see that recurring a lot more? Like, I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly or if I'm reiterating like what you told me, but I remember you telling me that you were stuck on this one thing for a really long time.
Yeah.
And you've been really, really bothered about it.
Yeah, that was for like part of the chatbot development. And it is like, that is like the thing is because you're put on these projects, and I think that usually if you're on like a software development team, there's other people there that are more experienced than you that know what they're doing. But for me, I was like working on this chatbot and I knew about the same amount as my supervisor did. On like the whole backend side, I knew more because I had to figure it out, I had to put it together. So for me, like I had to like reach out. It was through like Azure, so I had to reach out to like their support team to like figure some of this stuff out. And there were times where I'm like, I don't know, like I have no idea of like, if they don't get back to me, I'll have no idea on like how to fix this. And like luckily they did. I actually had like the person that ended up helping me out was like super, super helpful and friendly, and it took a while for like the two of us to figure it out. So I would say sometimes you'll be working on things and you might not necessarily have, especially if you're gonna do like software dev, you might not have anybody with like you're not gonna have like maybe like that senior dev that you can like go to if you're like, I don't know what to do with this.
How did you find the environment and the culture?
I think that Deloitte is probably a lot more fast-paced than what people might be used to in computer science, but really interesting because like, there's a lot of work going on and there's like so much different work going on. And like even though it's one company, because you're working for different clients, like the work that you can be doing can be so different, even if you're on the same team, just depending on like if you have a different client. Like I did really enjoy that like diversity. So I think that if you are somebody that you find like you love like trying new things and like learning new things, and like this would be a really good opportunity for you. So
especially like when students are applying to Deloitte, what do you think the skills are necessary that you find that a future Deloitte intern should have working there?
I think you have to like work. I think that most people that work at Deloitte like work. And like to be able to like get that fulfillment out of it. And I think that like if you were to be at a location that wasn't the Ottawa location, there would be much less of a work-life balance than there was in Ottawa. but also being comfortable working in a fast-paced environment and being comfortable like saying, like advocating for yourself and getting those resources that you need, because you won't know all the things that you're going to need to know. So you're going to have to be comfortable like reaching out and talking with people that you have never interacted with before to try to like figure these things out as they come up, and just be comfortable with the fact that like accepting that like when you first start, you might not be getting everything right the first time, and that's okay.
Those are good points. Did you find that the internship aligns well with your degree program and the kind of work that you want to do as a full-timer?
Like, because I am more interested in theoretical computer science, I've kind of shifted my degree to have like more of a theory aspect to it. So in that sense, it's not like super aligned, I would say. But I think that in general with like Deloitte, your education doesn't really matter that much when it comes to working at Deloitte. Like you need to like having experience doing those things, and in some ways like computer science does give you some of that software development experience, but I don't know if it's necessarily like there's not like a certain degree that you have to get to be able to work at Deloitte. And I think that for me, like full time, I think that environment, as I said before, is like really interesting, and being able to do different work is interesting. So like maybe in the future I'd be working there again, but I do have like more of an interest in theory at this point.
No, that makes sense, because it's very diverse, right? Consulting is diverse. There is so much in it. So that kind of makes sense, that it's not like you need to be specifically in a degree program to be able to work there. And also, like, as you were talking about the kind of skills that interns would need to be able to work there, a lot of it has to do with, your interpersonal skills and your soft skills compared to just having your tech skills.
Yeah. Because I think that there aren't really many tech skills that I would say you should have, because it's going to change depending on what project you're working on. So it's not like, I can't be like, learn this language and you'll be fine. Like, that's not going to be the case. Yeah. So there's like a set of tech skills that you can have and then you'll be fine. It's more than interpersonal skills for working at Deloitte, at least.
All right, let's test out your quick thinking skills with our rapid fire round game. Do you know it?
No.
So, how this is going to work, we're going to ask you a couple of questions, and you have not 1, not 2, not 3, but 5 seconds to answer those questions. So, Doreen's going to be timing you. Are you ready, Joyce? You sure?
Yep.
Okay.
Joyce is ready. Okay, we know you're a fan of Harry Potter, so we put some questions on there related to that. First question. What position does Harry play on his Quidditch team?
He's a seeker.
Damn. All right. You did better than Kate on that one.
Yeah, that was super fast. Okay, but also, like, I feel like it was an easier question. I'm so sorry, Kate.
True that. Sorry, Kate. Yeah, we asked her Harry Potter questions, but we asked her the toughest ones. And she didn't get, like, 2 of them. All right. So, what's your favorite food to eat?
Oh, this is so difficult. Dark chocolate.
Hey, I agree. But what type of chocolate?
Like, the ideal is, like, 85% or 90%, which to me are, like, 2 very distinct. Like, any, like, nice quality chocolate that's, like, 85% or 90%, which to me are, like, 2, like, very different types of chocolate. Like, those are very different moods for me. In my ideal world, I always have like a bar of like 80% dark chocolate and 90% dark chocolate on my cover, depending on what my mood is.
Do you have a favorite brand?
I'm not super picky on the brand, but like if it's nice chocolate, I'll like it.
I love dark chocolate. Dark chocolate is my
Same.
favorite too. Yeah.
Same. I used to like milk chocolate, and then I've grown kind of. It's grown on me. Dark chocolate has definitely grown on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my other friends really loves dark orange chocolate, and that's a thing apparently.
Yeah, my mom really likes the dark orange chocolate. I have not really been like an orange chocolate fan, but
I'm not an orange chocolate fan either.
Next question. What's the latest song on your Spotify playlist?
Oh, Taylor Swift's latest, like, newest album in general. I really like Betty.
All right. So, what was your favorite Halloween costume?
Oh, like that I've been?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A ketchup bottle.
You've been a ketchup bottle?
Yeah.
How awesome!
That's actually cute.
I love ketchup. I put ketchup on everything.
Yeah.
Yo, that's so cool.
I was like very, very passionate about ketchup when I was in elementary school.
Yo, you should have made your brothers be like relish and like mustard.
But I didn't like relish and mustard though, so I feel like that would have been, I couldn't have done it.
Damn it. It would be nice though, like the whole family is just a bunch of condiments that you use for your sandwich.
And the mayo.
Yeah.
Sriracha maybe.
What does your day look like in self-isolation?
Oh, usually I get up and do like an hour and a half to 2 hours of physio, and then I usually get into work, go for a walk. I like going for like walk coffee breaks, and then in the evening, maybe hanging out with my brothers.
Definitely like the part that you said about spending time with your brothers. One good thing that came out of self-isolation is spending more time with family. Which can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on...
It's a bad thing!
But yeah.
I love my brothers, so I like it.
I hope my parents aren't listening and my relatives too.
Rafid, are you spending more time with your cousin now?
She's gone. She's gone now, so...
Oh.
No more cousin anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. She's in Nova Scotia as we speak.
You can already tell. That's how bad it was to live with Rafid. His cousin left.
Dorina, I already told you, I'm like your brother. Like, whenever you go to ask your brother if he wants to play with you, he says no. That's literally me. That's literally me with my cousin. I'm like, no, go away.
Yeah, I'm the annoying sister. I'm older, but I am definitely that annoying sister.
Oh, actually, me too.
Like, why don't you ever watch movies with me?
Me too, because I don't watch movies by myself. I don't watch TV by myself either. So if I'm gonna like watch like a show or watch a movie, I always have to get my brother to watch it with me. He'd be like, it's like really annoying that you can't watch like a half-hour show by yourself.
Next question. What advice did you ever get that was the most rewarding for you?
Oh my gosh, I can't think of anything that quickly.
It's okay. Obviously, that's a hard question. Please tell us.
I guess there's something that sticks out to me because I think that like I tend to like need a lot of context around it, and for me it's usually like actions or like watching people and like really realizing like what that stuff means. But I think that for me, like maybe if I had to choose one thing, it's gonna be that like no matter what you do, there's always gonna be somebody that doesn't think that it's correct. And if you continue to if you follow those things, you're never going to get anywhere that's interesting or unique because you'll just be falling into like whatever everybody else is already doing.
Yeah, that actually makes sense, yeah. Some things to keep in mind.
Anyways.
But yeah, those were, I think you got like 80% of them. That was pretty good.
No, she got 90, I think. Yeah, I think she got 90. Yeah.
I went very over on that one life in quarantine question though, so I don't know if that counts.
No. I think that one counts. All right. So, we're going to talk a little bit about your research. So, where are you currently doing your research this summer?
So this summer I'm doing research with a Computational Geometry Lab at Carleton. I received an NSERC, which is the Natural Science and Engineering Research Council, USRA, which is a University Student Research Award. Sorry, that's a lot of acronyms. But it's an opportunity for students. It's funding. You get, I think it's $4,500 from NSERC, and then your supervisor provides you with an additional 25% to do research with a professor in like something in like a natural science field. So it's like bio, chem, physics, math, computer science. Maybe there's some other fields there that I might be missing, but it's an opportunity to be working with a professor over the summer doing research. It's really a great option for people that are interested in like going more to academics.
Yeah. How competitive is it actually, Joyce, like to get it?
For me, it was actually not that competitive to my knowledge. I mean, I don't really know how many people applied, but I know that there's not a ton of people that apply from computer science. If you're in chemistry or like bio or physics, like it's much more competitive, especially chemistry, because a lot more people apply every school has like a certain amount of awards and a certain amount per department. And usually there's not a ton of people that apply for computer science. And I think it is mostly based on your GPA, whether you get it or you don't get it. But I don't really know exactly, I couldn't say exactly how competitive it is. If you're in computer science though, it's not too bad.
Yeah, you and my other friend are the only two friends I know that got NSERC and comp sci, because I don't think a lot of people really do much of the research stuff in comp sci. A lot of people just go into industry, and like that's where it's mostly a lot more competitive to get those positions. But yeah, like if anyone's really interested in like, you know, theoretical computer science, or like, you know, looking for like experience like first year, I think this is a great way to like get your hands dirty.
Mm-hmm. I think that there is like research in other areas that's not just theoretical computer science. So like there are professors at Carleton researching other things too. Just the theory is like really my interest.
So we know your research is private and can't really be discussed, but in general, what sort of work is involved in a research position?
So it'll also depend on the supervisor that you are working with. But for me, the work that I'm doing is I'm doing research in graph theory, which is a field of theoretical computer science where you look at graphs, as the name suggests, which is a representation of like nodes, which are points, and edges, which are lines that connect them. And so the work that I'm doing is working on developing algorithms on graphs. So usually I'm reading other papers that people have already written on the topic. There's lots of reading papers that have already been written, coming up with some new ideas, discussing ideas with my supervisor, and then writing up the actual report for it.
What's the most challenging part of your job?
I think the initial, like, it's one of those things that, like, I had no idea how much I did not know until I started doing this research. And for me, like, my supervisor has been so helpful. I have no idea how somebody would do, like, research without, like, having somebody, like, an experienced supervisor to be able to, like, guide you, because you could spend so much time trying to figure something out or looking for resources that, like, your supervisor could clear up in, like, a few sentences, or trying to, like, read through papers that, like, you can get, like, the gist of maybe a little bit shorter. So I feel like if you were to have navigated just, like, trying to do research on yourself, it would be so difficult. But I think that maybe the other part, like, which is also related, is, like, reading papers, because sometimes there will be so much reference to things that you don't know that it requires you to, like, it can, like, a page can take potentially a couple hours if you have to go to, like, these other papers that they're referencing and, like, figure out, like, what you need to learn from that paper, and then come back to it. And sometimes, like, you'll kind of end up in this, like, chain of, like, oh, I need to understand this paper and I need to understand that paper. So I think that, like, once you gain more experience, you get a lot better at realizing, like, what you have to read, what you don't have to read, what, like, you need to know all the details of, and what you can just, like, you should understand the concepts of.
Yeah. I think for a lot of students, you know, now that we're talking about academia, the main path taken after university, especially in tech, is joining the corporate world. But obviously, academia is the other side of it. When did you realize that it was something that you wanted to pursue?
As soon as I figured out that it was a thing that could be pursued, I think. I remember the first time that I did hear about, like, the idea of, like, math research as, like, something that people could actually do. It was, like, for my second year linear algebra professor, and he said, like, something about, like, his research, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, people do research in math? Like, that's still a thing? I guess, like, I had just assumed that I'm like, oh, like, everybody knows math now, I just, like, haven't learned it. But there is so much, I think, that, like, I had, like, such a limited knowledge of it before. So for me, like, that was just, like, the most fascinating thing. And then after that point, I was like, oh, I want to know, like, all my professor's research. Like, I'm just, like, so curious on, like, what is out there, like, what problems are out there. So that's, like, the first time I really heard about it. I'm like, that would be so cool. But I didn't really think that it would be possible for myself. My current supervisor I had for one of my second year courses, and he actually told me about this program and this opportunity. And I definitely think that before I learned about this and I knew about this, it didn't seem like that was something, or I didn't even think that, like, an undergrad student would have the knowledge to be able to do research.
Yeah, Joyce, I was actually wondering, what are some steps you took to actually understand that, you know, academia could be a really good path career path for you in the future.
I think that definitely talking with people who are in academia, which is maybe a little intimidating if like you're thinking about like talking to your professors. For me, I'm really lucky. My uncle is a law professor, so I was able to talk with him a little bit about it too. But I think getting involved in some sort of research is super helpful to figure out, like, is that what you like to do? If you're interested in like teaching side of things, like being a TA is really helpful to just figuring out, like, is this something that I'd like to do? What does it look like? Like, what is the other side of, like, you're usually a student, but like understanding like more of like what your professors experience. And I think that like in general, and even if you're not in academia, I think that students don't talk to their professors enough. Like, I think that it's so like, and I know that like maybe it's a little intimidating, but like introduce yourself to your professors. And I think that for me, like, I mean, like part of the reason that I am doing research is because I have talked to my professors, and like if I've like when I've been interested in what my professors are doing, like asking them about their research, usually they love to talk about the research. And I think that just like if you're interested in their class, like be interested in that class, like ask them questions about it. Like it's probably something that they know more about. And I think that like it also in some ways just does like help if you want them to be your supervisor at some point, even I guess if it was like an honors project. Like if you're interested in it, they know that you're interested in it, and then you're not like a total stranger when you like ask about what's your research, or like would you consider supervising me or something like that. So just knowledge is really helpful to figure out whether it's something that you'd be interested in or not.
One thing I can attest to is that Joyce would be such a good professor, because like I remember when during our tutorials for Comp 1805, so it was Discrete 1, she was like my TA for my section because she took it the previous semester and she got the TA position. And like I remember when I was in her class, Joyce was so good at like TAing, because like the other TAs were just there for the salary. You can tell they're there to like, you know, be passionate about the topic. But like when Joyce taught, like she actually generally cared about like how she taught, and like I learned so much, a lot better. Like especially because I think you did the graph theory lesson, and I understood graph theory so much better than all the other topics, because I don't think it was just because it was easy. I think you explained it in a way that like I would understand it, and I feel like that skill set is going to be so vital if you're going to be pursuing academia in the future. But I can definitely see you as a really good professor.
Thank you. Actually, honestly, that is a big reason that I got into TAing in the first place, was just the fact that like for that class that I TA'd, I was just like sitting in class and so many people didn't get it. And for me, like I just love that so much. So when people like don't get it, I think this is like honestly math in general, when people like don't understand it, they just get frustrated and they decide that they don't like it. So for me, I'm like, I have to make like I love it so much. I need like everybody else to like get it so they can love it too. Which like obviously it doesn't happen like that all the time, but like I don't know, if I ever have like an office hour and I'm like explaining something to someone, they're like, this is like cool. I'm like, yes, that's my biggest mission.
Honestly, you were probably one of the best TAs in Comp 1805 in my opinion. But
You heard it here, guys. Look for Joyce Basic when you sign up for a comp sci course. What courses have you taught, Joyce? Have you TA'd for?
I did the first year like intro to computer science class for like the non-computer science, which I think is Comp 1004. And then I did 1805, which is discrete math. It's the first year discrete math. And then last year I TA'd 2804, which is the second discrete math, and that's what I'm doing this semester too.
Nice. When we previously spoke before, you mentioned that you value self-improvement and that it is something that you spend a lot of time on. Why is self-improvement important to you?
I think it's a basic idea of like, you can't take care of others and you can't be there if you haven't taken care of yourself. It's like that basic, like, if you're in a plane, the safety instructions of like, you know, you put your own first, like mask, like breathing mask on first, like oxygen mask before you help others. I think it's kind of that idea that like you need to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. And also you are like your most precious resource. Like there is nothing, if you don't take care of yourself, Like, obviously you can improve on yourself later on, but it's not something that you can really just buy. You have to invest in yourself.
Nice analogy. In what areas have you worked on self-improvement for your mental health?
So for my mental health, my biggest issue was body image and how I view myself. And I really went through that one when I was in second year, which is why I really went into this like very intentional self-improvement, was realizing that like I needed to change because I was so unhappy, and it was like I was just so unhappy with like my mental state. And for me, just dealing with like spending some time working through, why do I believe my current beliefs on my worth, and why are they like heavily related to how I look, and would I value other people the same way I value myself, which is usually no. And the stuff that I say to myself, is that something I would just say to somebody else? Like, is that genuinely something I could feel about somebody else? And usually the answers were no. So for me, it was trying to figure out, what is it that I actually value, and like, why am I as a person actually valuable?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly relate to that, like understanding your worth and knowing how valuable you are, because I think like we're all similar this way. I think all three of us are like similar in a sense where we are very critical of ourselves, rather than just like, you know, appreciating the good things we've done and all the good memories we have. We tend to focus on the negative more than the positive. So I think it's a very important thing to, like, don't just think about the positive. Obviously take feedback and everything, but it's also important to understand that you're not worthless. You are worth it. If you have that mindset, you'll be able to do a lot more in general, and you know, you'll be a lot happier that way. I think that we currently live in a society where, like, you know, we're always critiquing ourselves. We're always saying like we're not good enough, and we always exemplify overwork and not, like, you know, personal growth. I don't know if that was a little bit too preachy, but
No, I mean, I totally agree, and I could go on about that for much longer. And I think that just like this ability that like we currently have to measure so many things, like what are your grades? How many accomplishments do you have? How many awards do you have? How do you look? How does it fit to like the ideal? Even just like, what like number are you? Like, all of that stuff is just like this idea of that you can be categorized, that like your worth can be categorized, and that your worth can be ranked,
or that you can be put in a box. Yeah.
And I think that like you don't even realize that it's happening to you. You don't even realize that like you're conforming to it without even realizing.
No, like, it's so I definitely agree. It takes work. Like, self-improvement and personal growth, it takes a lot of patience and it takes a lot of hard work, but like, again, it pays off because you see how different your mindset is after you've gone through that, and you kind of pick up on some of the things that you think of, and you realize, wait, no, that's not how I should be seeing it. Instead, I should be seeing it the other way.
For sure. And do you have any advice for people who are actually working on themselves?
I would say if there's like something in particular that you were dealing with, would be getting involved in a community and having a support system and reaching out to people if it is something that like is a like more particular area that you're working on. So for me with like body image, like I had a community of women that were so helpful and so supportive. And but I would say if it's not like one thing in general, or you're just realizing that like you need to be more self-aware. One exercise which I recommend, which I am actually planning on doing this week before school starts again, because I think it's a good time for it, is a life audit, and just look at, like, have a list of things that are important to you. I'm sure that you could probably Google some of this stuff too, but like friends, family,
this is so interesting.
How you feel about your work, how fulfilled are you, like contribution to society, and then for each one of them, rank like out of 10 how you feel.
Yo, my high school teacher actually said the same thing. Like, she taught us literally that. Like,
oh really?
Like, she called it the circle of life, where like you have multiple circles, one in the other, and you kind of rank like the closer it is to the center, that's what's most important to you. And as the circle grows, it's like things that are less of a priority for you. So being able to figure that out, this is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what I would do is do all that, like, is to do that exercise, and then afterwards all like the ones where I feel like are lower, like not in terms of like lower priority to me, but like lower as in I'm not feeling as like fulfilled in, is writing out what does it mean to be, like, if it's out of 10, what does it mean to be 10 on that? Like, what does that look like? And like still like realistic, like nothing is ever perfect, but like how would I feel like the most fulfilled out of like my relationships with my friends, for example. And the other thing too, which I just think is also important, is then looking at how do you spend your time, and does your time align with what you value? Because I think a lot of times it's easy to say like, oh, I value this thing, but then you never spend any time working on it.
Because you have so many distractions, right? Like, social media is the biggest distraction of all. Like, I mean, like, take it from Rafid. Like, he literally stopped watching Netflix, and he has been more productive than ever. And I really like that advice. Like, even for me, like, once I started doing the podcast and I started working, I haven't watched Netflix in so long, and I'm so much happier, because if I did, then I would find myself just watching for a whole day, and I wouldn't have done anything for the whole day, but yet I would still be tired, and I'll be like, what? How does that make sense, you know?
Yeah, I personally, and also like if you do, it's totally okay. I just like don't get a lot of like enjoyment out of TV and movies. So like if it's something that I do, as I said before, I usually do it with people, which maybe means dragging my brothers into it, but usually it's something that like, it's like an event that like I watch a movie with like my brothers or friends or something like that. So for me, I like in those situations like enjoy it more, but it's not something that like I enjoy, so I don't regularly do it.
Yeah, I honestly do agree with that. Like what you're mentioning, Dorina, like it's hard to know what to cut out, and you know what to know, like what to prioritize, because like you're used to it for so long, right? And I think like Joyce, I'm not sure if you had any experience with this, but admitting where you're going wrong and trying to overcome it is probably the biggest challenge, and like trying to like find a solution for it, and that might lead to some sacrifices to some things. Have you ever like experienced that firsthand?
Sacrifices, definitely. I feel like for me, my biggest mystery is like free time. I feel like I don't have free time, and I'm always like so baffled when people are like talk about like free time, because I'm like I just like don't understand how that works.
Yeah, I don't either. Like I'm like you. I'm exactly like you. Like like I don't feel like I have free time at all. So yeah,
like for me, like when I think about free time, I think about like being like a kid, like running around in my backyard. I'm like, that is free time. Like,
that's how
I don't know what free time is anymore. But outside of that, like there is like, and I think in general, like sacrifices, like your time is valuable, and there is only like so many things that you can do. And I know for myself, like I do feel like there are a lot of times like that I am dropping the ball in certain areas of my life, or not prioritizing things correctly. And I think that it's also unrealistic to think that you're going to handle every situation perfectly, that you're going to always have enough time to give everything like the attention that you would like to. I don't really know if that was answering the question.
For sure. And I know we were talking about self-improvement, but like talk a little bit more about like the high school journey and how your coming of age happened. Like tell us about overall how you found like high school to help you with that transition to university.
I think that like for university, it was, I think that maybe kind of going back to what I was saying before, just like that like feeling so much pressure on how difficult university was going to be. It did definitely mean that I worked very hard first year. But I think that a number of like my teachers had done a good job of preparing us at my school in terms of the way they taught their classes. I think that maybe the biggest difference in university from high school is really like the social aspect, maybe more than I found like the workload, the social aspect is just very different.
Outside of classes, like back in high school, what are some activities that you did?
So I was super into running when I was in high school. I was involved in other things too. I was also on like the tennis team for a couple years, the curling team for a couple years. I was part of
Oh my god, how awesome. I was also part of MeetWe.
Yeah, it was really fun. Really? That's so cool.
Did you guys see Lily sing?
No, okay. I think she came to Ottawa. Was it Ottawa?
Yeah, it was Ottawa's.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to. But when I was in the high school club for MeetWe, back then we went to the concert where like there was Imagine Dragon. And I'm pretty sure that was one of my first concerts.
Oh my god!
And it was so awesome.
No way! Imagine Dragons?
Yeah, like We Day,
That's my
right?
favorite band.
A really good performance.
No way!
Yeah, it was really good.
Yo, we should trade. You see Lily sing, I see Imagine Dragons, we win.
Yo, I
Done
love
deal.
Lily Singh. She's so funny. And so inspirational. Anyway, back to Joyce. Tell us more.
Oh, but my big thing was running when I was in high school. So I was... Cross country was like my favorite. I loved cross country, which was in the fall, and then in the spring was track. And at our school, and I think this is maybe like the way for most high schools, or at least to my knowledge, where like your cross country coaches also tend to be your track coaches. So it was something that I started like when I was in grade 9, kind of just like wanting to do it maybe a little bit more casually, and then I just really loved like this aspect of distance running where like just being able to work hard at it could result in like bigger results, and just like building up that endurance, and just really enjoyed running and racing. So I worked really hard at it over the summer of like grade 9 and grade 10 and improved quite a bit. And then, I mean, we were in a pretty small team, so I just like became like a little bit of like an unofficial leader, I guess, on the team. It was just a really nice experience, and it really felt like a community for me. And I loved the fact that like some sports, for example, if you were to do like junior girls basketball, like you're with the same, like you're with like all girls kind of like around your age, you probably have classes with them. But for me, like there were kids in track and cross country that were like in all grades, and so like you're interacting with like so many different people, and I just really like love that aspect too.
But yeah, like honestly, it's a really healthy habit for, especially in high school, to like get active, because I honestly think that high school is the best time to get physical activities like that.
And I think that like also like finding the thing that you really enjoy is like the most important part. Like if you don't like running, that's totally fine. But like, and if you don't like any like school organized thing, like that's also totally fine. Like maybe you just like going to the gym and like working out with some friends, or working out by yourself or something like that. I just think it's nice to be able to like have like finding a thing that you enjoy, and that's like a healthy outlet for you, and just enjoying that. Because I feel like so many people with like running are like, oh yeah, running is like so good for you, but I don't think it's any better than any other form of like physical exercise that you enjoy. So if you love yoga and you just do your own yoga classes, like that's also, I feel like, totally fine.
And for like the students who are, you know, applying this coming school year, do you have like any advice for those high school students?
I would say one thing that like I found useful would be look at some of the courses, like when you're taking a program, look at some of the courses that you would take in that program and do a little bit of reading about them to see like, is that something that you're actually interested in? And the other thing would be reaching out to people, like if you know anybody from your school who's gone to a university, if you have like questions about that university or that program, is like, don't be afraid to like reach out or like ask those people, or like even if you find somebody like on LinkedIn, like send them a message and say like, hey, I'm interested in like going to Carleton for computer science. Like I have some questions. Would you be willing to talk about it? It's so much easier to take a little bit more time to decide and put a little bit more effort into deciding before what you want to do than just say, oh, I like this, or I think I'm going to like this and go into it. It worked out well for me, but I know it doesn't really work for everybody. So in retrospect, I would have put a little bit more time into research.
Yo, I definitely agree. Definitely put effort into doing your research, and not just that career course they make you take in grade 9 or something, but more than that. Thank you for being on the podcast today, Joyce. It was such a pleasure having you with us on this series. And also for meeting you through Technolgap, I felt like we were really connected when we spoke before.
Yeah, this has been really fun for me.
Yeah. I hope the audience can take a few points from your experience today about pursuing academia and navigating first year of university. It's definitely not easy, and everyone's story is always so different, but I think, some of the advice that they give is very similar and can definitely be put into practice.
Also, one other thing I wanted to mention, I honestly think that Joyce is breaking the boundaries. Being a woman in computer science and pursuing theoretical math is not really the traditional path that, a lot of women would tend to go to. But, it's showing that, if you're passionate, if you want to do anything, there are people from all sorts of different backgrounds pursuing something. And I think Joyce has shown that, don't feel intimidated because you're a woman and you can't, be doing theoretical computer science. Don't be intimidated if you're a guy, and if you want to go into nursing, you should break those glass ceilings. Yeah. So I honestly found it really inspirational. I always found Joyce a huge inspiration for a lot of women in computer science, and I think that throughout this podcast, I think a lot of people would think that's evident because especially being in computer science, it's really intimidating. So.
Yes, break the glass ceiling, guys. That's what it's all about. I love that you brought up self-improvement. It is so important to work on ourselves and self-growth. That's what helps us deal with all the different aspects in life, your friendships, relationships, careers, work environment.
Oh, thank you so much.
If you'd like to hear more about Joyce Basic, you can check out her LinkedIn as well as her IG, J_Basic, all in the description below.
And be sure to check us out on all our social media platforms at Capital Interns, on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook to check out all the awesome things we post. If you're not already, follow and subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple and Google Podcasts to be notified of all our latest episodes. The next guest is a really good friend of mine from high school. He is a very intelligent student within the sciences. He's currently studying biochemistry in his 4th year, and he's done lots of research under profs in biochem as well. Stay tuned as we delve into our guest's passions, experience, and personal life. Till next time. Bye.
Bye.
You really gotta go?
Come on, man. Nobody's forcing you to leave, Wiping your slate clean ain't so easy.